Hi, I'm Maddie Harlan from Permaculture magazine, and I'm at the National Permaculture Convergence, and I'm having a chat with Jasmine Dale, who's a permaculture designer and author. And I want to ask you a little bit about what is permaculture design, and can you unpack some of the stages of it, because it can be a bit mysterious to people who haven't done a design course.
Yeah, well, that's right. So primarily, it's like a toolkit for helping us see our projects through to an effective end and try and take account of as many factors as possible. I'd take a step back maybe and say that even when people have done their permaculture design certificates, often we leave very, very inspired and activated, particularly by the practical activities. And I feel that the design element kind of quite often drops off. So we're all designers in our own way, and designing really means that you're breaking down a task into a series of steps. So rather than just bundling in fully like with all your thoughts, I'm just going to do this, do that, it's actually taking a step back. And from my point of view, particularly as systems designer, it's acknowledging there's a lot of complexity there. So that's then when you want the design process. Take that step back, and then crucially, design means for me breaking it down into steps and manageable steps. And of course in permaculture we have quite a few commonly used design frameworks, and you'll find these across industry, in the army, all sorts of different places, because people know it's crucial, or for effectiveness, to stop, take a breath and break things down into manageable chunks and steps. So permaculture design then, normally you've basically got some sort of survey stage at the beginning, and quite often a permaculture project will involve a garden or something, so you've got your physical survey. But because we're into holistic systems, we've also got the people survey. If you're doing the design for someone else, that means you've got a client and you're asking them. But also, even if it is for someone else or yourself, you've always got to bring yourself, because there's, to me, 3 spheres in that survey phase. The physical site, often land or a building, the people sphere, the societal and all the interactions that go with that, but then your sort of personal, intimate, psychological sphere, that even if the design's not for you, you're going to be bringing that to the table. So that's the first stage, surveying. And the tradition I've been taught in, and in how other fields would use survey and design as well, is it's crucially about not making decisions, observing what is. And as doers, especially in modern society, we've all got this propensity to get on, and especially if we feel an imperative to act, or we feel in an emergency or something, there's a lot of motivation to just get going. But I would even think, for me nowadays, the survey might actually be 50% of the time or something. Well, I don't know, maybe you can't quantify it, but it's heavy. Err on the side of caution, heavy on the side of survey. And a lot of that will be about observing. So within that, you might have sort of very objective, rational approaches. Like this field, you would be measuring it, checking for plant species and so on. But you also would have more like intuitive or creative approaches to surveying as well. And of course, there's a massive spectrum of those sort of techniques. But just take a simple one that people would be aware of, is perhaps putting together a vision board or an artistic representation of what is or what we want. And so you're surveying both what is and what we desire to see. But we're not making decisions or analysing what is best.
Okay.
So that's a bit lengthy.
Step 1.
Step 1.
Step 2.
Step 2, analysis. So I would call it computing it from every angle. And you're weighing up. And in the simplest thing, permaculture offers the idea, taken from Edouard de Bono, positive, negative, interesting. So say, shall me and Maddie have a party under this tree? What would be positive about it? Blah, blah, it's a lovely area. What would be negative? We'd all have to sit in a line. What would be interesting?
Sitting in a line.
Sitting in a line, yeah, quite. And when you are, so it's checking the pros and cons of something in a way. And of course there's lots of tools in permaculture, like linking inputs and outputs, and checking that every element has more than one function to bring in resilience and so forth. They're all analytical tools. And when I first qualified for my PDC years ago, I really had to think, what does analysis mean from all these ideas they gave me? But, you know, it's basically that. It's weighing stuff up, discerning, and again, from that, you're using that before making any decisions. And so when we go to the design stage, what I crucially believe about using a design process, going through these steps, is you've managed the complexity. And instead of like jumping ahead thinking, well, I need to do this and I don't know what trees to get and I so-and-so and where's the money coming from? Your brain, it's well documented that it does unseen processes and it starts to compute it for you. So it's I feel that it's fairly effortless. If you've got a complex project, or for me, even when I got given a field, I felt that it looked empty, but to me I think there's complexity here.
Huge.
Surely,
Yeah.
you know, with wind, rain,
And all the potential.
Yeah,
Huge.
and a blank canvas,
Yeah.
massive. And
It's a responsibility as well.
for me, I've always felt that because I've felt very respectful before intervening in something.
Exactly.
And when I do people designs, I feel the same. And maybe for the cautious people like me, it's a very good tool because the design process then gives us confidence to know we've kind of done our best to think through what we could. And for the people that are gung-ho and very confident, it's probably good for them in the reverse because it helps them slow it down and take account of factors. So we're managing the complexity, it's keeping things coherent, and that unseen work happens. So I tend to find, like I had to design a bathroom a few years ago for ourselves, and when I got to plumbing and all that sort of jalabi, it just started to get a bit overwhelming. Or what I noticed actually more pertinently in my analysis is when I noticed it, I actually didn't really care at all about the plumbing side. I wanted the artistic side. So as soon as one notices that immediately starts to inform design decisions. And so actually, mostly I believe, and I have taught like a lot of people, and that the design actually starts to emerge and come forth itself. So it's pretty good. It's a reliable way to bring forth a sort of solid set of ideas that are coherent. Because I love joined up thinking, and that's one of the big strengths of permaculture, is its systems thinking.
Exactly, that we don't leave anything out in the system, as long as we give ourselves time to observe what the system is and how, when you tweak it, what it becomes, and then analyse all the relationships between those elements in the system.
Those relationships, isn't it?
Exactly, it's the relational aspect of the system. But what I really like about your work is that you break it down and you make it simple, and then you have a way of reunifying it by the end that makes it accessible and achievable for people who don't think of themselves as designers.
Yeah, well, I may have picked it up from one of my early teachers when I did the teacher training, like a Lanya or Luby, but it was everyone's a designer in some way.
Exactly.
It's like when we're cooking, that's the classic example given, isn't it? We observe, we survey, how hungry, what do I feel like, oh, the children only want to eat pasta or whatever, and then we analyse what have we got, how much time have we got, and then we put the design together. So we're all designers on some level, and so even people that don't consider that they've got particular skills, we do it. So what I suppose we would all urge is bring that to your projects as well.
Exactly, and this is such an important time for us to be strategic and not just run around like headless chickens thinking, the planet's dying and in trouble and we need to act fast. We have got to act, but we've got to be strategic, considered, we've got to do our observation, we've got to have the capacity for analysis, and then we have our action.
Yeah, I feel that's really is the case. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who's one of my writers I really love, the Buddhist activist monk, and Gandhi actually, they both said that when they were in the height of war zones, they had to use their meditation, they had to have a full-on meditation practice, say for example, and I think one of them said he took a whole day out of every week, even in the height of the emergency, to take that space to observe. And so their point was that we may feel like the imperative to act and do everything quickly, but we'll be much more effective if we can take that time to just be still a bit and check the surrounds.
So, you've heard it from Jasmine. If you want to know more, there is a book that we've just published called the Permaculture Design Companion, and also the website will come up, Jasmine's website, at the end of this video. Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed our Permaculture Media YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more exciting videos. Thank you.